Hola, ¿cómo estás? Usted, How? Greetings from Hefei, China. My name's Lucas Saul. I'll be talking briefly with you about public and private currencies on the occasion of the 4th International Conference on Social and Complementary Currencies, Barcelona. I'd like to thank the University Oberta de Catalunya, the Research Association on Monetary Innovation, Community and Complementary Currency Systems, the Catalan Solidarity Economy Network, the Instituto de la Moneda Social, the International Journal of Community Currency Research, and of course August Corons and Teodoro Criscione, and really all the organizers and participants of this conference deserve a hearty thanks, and I think this is a very important conference for two reasons. The first is that many of the problems in the world today are directly or indirectly caused by a mistaken faith or valuation or financialization, and in many cases a new look at currencies and improved currencies can make a world of difference. The second reason this is so important right now is that even if you disagree with my first point, the fact is that we are undergoing a major change in our understanding of currency and financialization. And to prepare people for this, we need to have educators. We need you folks to continue your research. We need you to help people to make these transitions, because an understanding of new currency system, even if it's not the new thing that will take over the world, is only going to help people to understand, to help value their goods and services, to value nature, to value currencies, to value companies, and so this conference on social and complementary currencies is right at the forefront of this research. I'd like to thank you all for your participation. This paper that my brother Quincy Saul and I submitted goes by the title of Beyond the Complementary and the Alternative, Towards a Negation of the Negation and a Realization of Intrinsic Value. Now this is the portion that I'll be talking about is about public and private issuance in the social currencies. But before I get too far into this, let me introduce myself. My name is Lucas Saul. I hold a doctorate in physics, and I'm affiliated currently with the University of Hefei in Anhui Province, China, as an assistant professor. I'm also have some work I'm doing with a secure computing company from Vermont, in which we have worked on building a currency known as Woodcoin. My brother Quincy is a founder of Eco-Socialist Horizons, and has done a lot of work working with, I'll let you look him up yourself, and he's perhaps more politically motivated, the two of us, and educated. And in fact, much of this paper refers, with this negation of negation, to some work of Karl Marx, who came up recently once again in terms of his claims that labor drives currency and gives it value, and now we have proof of work currencies becoming quite popular. This is perhaps a launching point for some of this study. But really, I'm going to keep this short, and I want to talk about one particular distinction between many of these currency types. And let's make a quick inventory of the currency types that we have today. We have social, complementary, and community currencies. We have hard and soft currencies. We have fiat currencies and precious metals. We have cryptocurrencies, centralized and decentralized currencies. We have capped supply, uncapped. We have backed and unbacked currencies. We have Nagual and tonal currencies. We have inflationary, deflationary, and everything in between. We have demurrage, we have proof of work, proof of stake, proof of space, we have programmable currencies, and we have public and private currencies. So what is a public currency? Well, the first public currency that I know of was the Ray stone of the Yap Island. Now, these Polynesians were absolute geniuses, whoever came up with this. Still find it brilliant. If you're not familiar with their system, it involved very large stones, very different from some of the public currencies we have today. But the main important factor that the money was visible and public to every participant was in place. The issuance of currency was public, and in many cases the transfer of value from one person to another was also public. Could be public at least. So we have that money creation is in the eyes of all participants. It's not done behind closed doors. It's not done according to procedures that are hidden. It's not done. It's not hidden in any way. It's open, and this is a very important attribute of currency, and because it eliminates a certain type of corruption and fraud, namely money supply corruption. You might think of this as counterfeiting, but it's a little more subtle than that. Money creation, if your currency is successful and you have a privately issued currency, you will understand that there are forces at play which might lead to creation of money that not everybody knows that you created that money. And this is a divisive act. Of course, if these powers are used by people doing good, then that's great. The trouble is that they can be abused. They say power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. So what kind of troubles do you run into with private currency? You run into things being valued improperly. You run into certain segments of the population being arriving at great wealth not in accordance with their merit, and then who are liable to use this wealth in ways which might not be the most efficient for the whole society. If I have to give you too many examples of this, then you're probably not looking around very carefully. The key is to imagine, this is a technique in security, computer security. You want to imagine yourself as being the bad guy, as it were. Imagine that you have the printing presses of pick a currency in your basement. What would you do? You have to go through this scenario and think of all the details involved. What would you do? And then you'll understand some of the factors at play. And if some of you are at work creating very interesting currencies, perhaps different type of money supply curves you have in mind, different use cases, different ways they're secured, different ways they can be used or programmed, I would urge all of you to consider making these currencies public, because in doing so, you eliminate this entire class of security vulnerabilities. And they are glaring security vulnerabilities. Once you see the solution of a public coin, you realize the vulnerability that was there in the private coins. Now, let's review some private coins. Of course, fiat systems are issued privately. The dollar, the euro, the yuan, the renminbi. But it's also important to realize that something like gold is issued privately. If you go into the backyard and you dig a piece of metal out of the ground, you don't have to broadcast that information to anyone, and it will still be accepted as gold. And of course, there's a limit to the amount you can do this to, which is another interesting aspect, but it is nonetheless a private coin. So these things are different, but in terms of the public versus private, we should have a clear distinction. Of course, it's not always so clear. We have certain coins such as Zcash, for which it becomes a little difficult to know if the money supply is public or not. That's perhaps another story for another day. But the rediscovery and implementation of public currencies is, in my opinion, a groundbreaking development. And I urge you all to try to use some public currencies. Bitcoin is, of course, the most popular public currency. Every coin creation event is public for all to see. That's why you know it's a Bitcoin. You can look on the list of all of them, and that's why they can't be created fraudulently. And you can verify the legitimacy of the system. You don't have to be any official, or it's open for all. It's public coin. So I would encourage you all to use one of thousands of public coins which exist, and to learn the difference and why it's important, and to also teach others to use these systems, and in whether they are as alternatives, as complements, as local, as international, or as you would like. Use them as you want, and with your own brilliance, and keep up the good work. Use public coin. Thank you for tuning in.